Have you ever tried adding vocal chops to your next big hit, but it ends up sounding more like you tossed a choir into a blender? Don't worry, we've all been there. And today I'm gonna give you exactly how I make vocal chops and why your vocal chops might sound like trash, and then 3 techniques to fix them and turn them into treasure. Let's start by bursting some bubbles. You know those silky smooth, mesmerizing vocal chops you hear from top producers? Yeah, that didn't happen in 5 minutes. Contrary to the clickbait YouTube tutorials promising instant expertise, creating memorable vocal chops takes skill and nuance. So if you think a couple of clicks will make you the next Skrillex, think again. Vocal chops take work, and they also take a good ear. Here are some of the most common reasons why your vocal chops might not be hitting the mark. Reason number 1, your source material. If you already have a bad sounding audio sample, chopping it up is just gonna make it sound like chopped up trash. Still bad, still gross. Reason number 2, a bad melody. Treat vocal chops like any other synth. If the melody you choose doesn't vibe with the song and sound good with the normal synths, it won't sound good with vocals. A bad melody doesn't magically change because you put more work into making it. Reason number 3, bad timing. For everyone out there whose timing is so bad it could be a comedy act, keep this in mind. Vocals and vocal chops should be correctly placed in a beat. Don't just go by the grid, adjust the sounds to fit your ear and flow. Do any of those sound like you? Don't worry, you're not alone. I'm gonna show you how to fix this right now. It's time to put on your big boy pants, and I'm gonna show you 3 techniques that I personally use to make vocal chops that sound great and that don't fall into any of the mistakes that I commonly hear with them. Method number 1, vocal chops by manual cutting. Let's hop into this demo that I'm working on so that we can create some vocal chops for this. I have a really rough outline of the song so far, but I know that I want to have vocal chops on the chorus. Why don't you take a listen to it before any vocal chops, and then I'll show you this technique. Where we are. Technique number 1 in showing you how to create some vocal chops. I'm going to duplicate the main Vox track here by clicking duplicate up there. You can also click Command D if you're in Logic, or most DAWs actually. We're going to make sure that this is centered by alt-clicking on the pan button. Then we're going to solo one of our tracks so we can hear exactly what we're working with. With words it's too hard, but let's never stray. This first method involves me dragging this specific track down to a different track and chopping it up and creating a Frankenstein type vocal. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take some of these bigger transients and I'm going to highlight them by holding Command and using my marquee tool. Then I'll click on them and alt drag down to this track down here. I'll even move this track here so that it'll be easier to work with. I'm not listening to this, and normally I would. For the sake of time, I'm just gonna go through and take some of these transients that I see and click and drag them down so that I can get some words to work with. Now we have a nice little bass to work with. We are going to manually assemble these on the chorus. So the chorus drops right here. As I'm adjusting these, I'm going to move them to the grid, and I'm just going to be feeling out what I want the rhythm to be. I don't know exactly, but as long as I line them up to the grid to start, I'm going to be happy with the result, most likely. I've assembled something that is kind of on grid, but let's just hear what it sounds like by itself. I can't wait. We have the basis of the rhythm. This isn't an amazing vocal chop by any means. I'm just showing you the techniques for this one. Now that I have all of these chopped up, I'm going to go into each one and I'm going to transpose them so that it sounds good and fits the melody that I have in my head. I'm just going to continually play this over and over again until I get something that I like. Okay, let's hear what it sounds like in the mix. I'm going to turn this up a lot. I'm going to turn the gain up. Notice that I still have auto-tune on this. This is going to keep it in the key even if the note isn't exactly perfect. I use this method in combination with some of the other methods I use in most of the vocal chops that I actually professionally produced. Another benefit of this particular technique is you can go into individual files like this, you can go to function, and you can go to reverse, and you can get some really cool vocal effects like that. I can't wait. And there you go. Now another thing I like to do on this is I like to add a fade into all of them, just a slight fade and a fade out so that they... And then with anything, I'd like to add some effects to make them stick out of the mix even more. I would really like to add some distortion, maybe some delay, and really make them pop. That leads us right into method number 2, and this involves sampling vocal chops and playing them. For this second method, I'm going to copy and paste this whole vocal into a sampler. This method is faster than method 1, but it makes it harder to control after the fact. As mentioned previously, I usually use a combination of this specific method and the first method to get the best results possible. In order to do this technique, we're going to open up a new software instrument right underneath our track here. We'll click into here. We're going to go into Quick Sampler. We're going to drag this file right here into here, and we're going to go to Optimize. It's going to analyze this file and analyze all of the transients available, and then all of a sudden we can play it on our keyboard. Alright, and then what I'll do is I'll play the actual chorus part, and I'll just experiment until I find a melody that I like on the keyboard. Alright, I'm going to record something. I don't have exactly something in mind, but I know a couple notes, and I'm just going to improvise and see what happens. So here we go. What's cool about this method is I can adjust the melody with MIDI after playing it if I don't like a certain note, and I can also quantize it so that it's directly on the beat. Those are both really great features. After some effects, here's what method 2 sounds like. As a way of combining both of these methods further, I can either do one of two things. If I want to make method 2 more like method 1 and get the more control from it, I can go over my MIDI, click Control B on my keyboard, click OK, and it's going to create an audio region of that same thing that I just played. I can go in here and I can go to remove silence from audio region, and as you can see, if I take the threshold down, you'll see that it's going to create different parts for me, just like before. Now I can go into each individual one and change the pitch just like I did before. Alternatively, if you want to go from method 1 into method 2, what you want to do is you want to go through the vocal and find all of the parts that make the most sense. Vowels are usually your best friend for vocal chops. Then after you have all of them, put them on a track like this, and we're going to click Control B. Once again, we're going to bounce them down as one audio file so that we can put them on a quick sampler track. Now that we have this audio file here, we can open up a new quick sampler track just like before. Software instrument, quick sampler, go into here, and we can just drag and drop this audio file right into here. We'll go into Optimize, it's going to save us some time. We'll go into Slice, and once again, we can play all of these on our keyboard. We can even go in and edit them just like we can before if we want them to be longer or shorter, depending on what we're looking for. Both of those are really great ways of doing vocal chops, but there's actually a third way that I will use if I'm in a rush because it's the fastest way that I found. Now time for method 3, automating my actual vocal singing. For the last method, we're going to take our own melody and then we're going to automate it so its formant and its pitch fit our song, and we're gonna get a cool vocal chop effect. This is the fastest method of them all, but it's the least vocal chop sounding. I will often use this as a placeholder as I'm creating a song. If I know I want vocal chops in it, but I'm not ready to spend the time making them yet, or I'm not completely sure about the melody. For this technique, I'm going to choose a melody that I have in my head and just sing it over the track. I'll record my vocals, then I'll go in after, chop it up, change the format, change the pitch so that it sounds more like a vocal chop. Then after all those parts, I'll add in some FX and I'll show you the final result. I'm gonna create some vocal chops with my own voice and just kind of scat over the melody until I get something I like. What I'm going to do, just like before, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go into Split, remove silence from audio region, and I'm going to divide these up. I'm going to get rid of some of that actual parts in between to make them sound more vocal choppy, and I don't really even have to do anything else other than that. But let's just hear what this sounds like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, just like before. I'm going to go into Transpose and just choose some of them up, choose some of them down, see what happens here. Another cool trick that I'll use on these really fast vocals is I'll go into Pitch, I'll go into Vocal Transformer, Stereo, and I'm going to automate the format over this so that it changes over time. And this is a really quick and dirty way. You can do this for each note individually if you want to. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, start low, and then end high, and it's going to give it some movement throughout. Check this out. vocal chops aren't a walk in the park, but they shouldn't be a trek through hell either. They take time to make, but perfecting them can give great results. Now get out there and start chopping. Use these 3 techniques that I use to make vocal chops and see which one works for your workflow. They're all different, they all have their pros and they all have their cons, but what matters is if it sounds good at the end of the day, it's good. And now I want to hear from you. Share your vocal chop disasters and triumphs in the comments. If you want more of this brutally honest goodness, subscribe to our newsletter 5 Beat Friday. It's your weekly fix for everything you need to suck less at music production. I'll share all the tips I've learned on my journey to make great sounding music with you. Happy vocal chopping. Peace.